When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor on this Thursday morning. Today we're talking about solar power. Is it in? Is it out? Is it on the rise? You know, I don't know. Are you a doubter? 436 MeTV option 11. We'll be here for the full 60 minutes with a man who owns a solar company. Back in a moment. Hey, we're back here on the program on this Thursday morning talking about solar power, and it is Ask an Expert Day. So if you're thinking about solar and you have many questions, and I'm sure that you do, I mean, I know I do. I got a ton of questions. We may not even get to them all here in the full 60 minutes, here until 11 o'clock. You're, of course, watching us live on Comcast, channel 187 and 43.6, as usual. But we've added a few channels, too, and now you can see us on 13.1. That's also MeTV. And the replay comes up, I understand now, between 2 and 3 o'clock on YouTube at 13.6. That's between 2 and 3. And then BizTV 13.5 at the usual 8 o'clock time slot. So plenty of time to see the replay if in fact you've missed this one. Solar, you know, a few years ago, if you'd have mentioned solar power to somebody and say, you know, I'm going out to get solar panels, they would have looked at you as some kind of a nut. But not now, not in this day and age, not in 2014. In fact, solar is on the rise from everything I've been hearing and reading. I want to take you to the videotape, my friends, and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, this is Solar Negotiators. In fact, there's been a 30% increase in solar energy production a year, and some energy experts believe that at least 50%, do you hear what I said? At least 50% of our country will be powered by solar in the next 20 years. I don't know if that's true. That's what some experts are saying, not me. Now, there is a reason for that. First of all, the cost of panels has been dropping steadily since the 1970s, and now, depending on the deal, people are getting these panels installed in their homes for zero money down. You know, back in 1977, the price per watt of a silicon cell was $77, and now the cost is a mere, well, it depends on where you are in the country, anywhere from 36 to 56 cents. All these predictions, well, here's another one. The International Energy Agency says we will produce about 662 gigawatts of solar power energy by 2035, and the investment will be right around $1 trillion. See, everybody has a prediction on this. And here's the other thing. An installer can check out your roof on Google Earth. All they have to do is go to the internet and determine within a few seconds as to whether or not your home is a good candidate for solar. And of course, once they look at the history of your PG&E bill, they can tell whether or not, my friends, you in fact will be saving money. Live in our studio now is Chris Moran. He is the owner, the sole owner of Solar Negotiators here in the city of Fresno. He is standing by, willing, ready, and able to take your phone calls today and talk about solar power. You know, all these numbers, all these predictions, all these solar panels are coming down in price. So you must have 1,001 questions, as I do here on the program about solar. You know, one of our first programs that we did 3 years ago on this show was on solar power. Haven't done one since. So you're free to call in at 436 MeTV option 11. We're back with our solar program in just a moment.
most watched news channel in Europe.
So back here with Chris Moran, the owner of Solar Negotiators. And how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you, John.
Hey, I want to put a picture up on the screen of you in the military.
Okay.
You look like a 12-year-old kid. But well, you were almost 12. No, actually, you fought and were a war veteran in Iraq. What year was this?
That photo was shot in 2005. I was in Iraq in 07 and 08.
Yeah. Yeah, you spent how much time over there?
I was there for 10 months.
Yeah. In the military, how long?
6 years in the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. Are you glad you're out?
I don't. There are parts of it I miss, and other parts that I'm very happy to be.
What part of it do you miss?
I miss the discipline. I miss the I don't know.
Really?
Civilian life is a little different, but I'm glad to be back in the civilian world and working here in Fresno.
Well, you kind of make your own schedule now. I mean, isn't that right? I mean, you have your own discipline.
That's right.
With your own company, the Solar Negotiators. I mean, it can't be easy, right?
Now, our clients dictate our schedule, but I do have a little bit more flexibility. There's no sergeant breathing down my neck, that's for sure.
Right. Hey, let me ask you a quick military question before we get into this solar panel stuff. Since you were over in Iraq, you saw things firsthand over there. What's your opinion on what we should do with ISIS? We saw the second beheading of a U.S. journalist here just the other day. What should this country do about it, in your opinion, from a soldier's point of view?
Well, I think it's despicable, first of all, and I think that anytime you have American lives lost, some action needs to be taken, and it needs to be swift. There's too much discussion going around.
Do we send ground troops back in there?
You know, I'm not a politician, luckily, but I do think we need to do something, and ground troops were there for many years. I know because I was one of them, and it's disappointing to know the ground that we covered and the progress we made in that country and
has now been lost.
And it's very disappointing to someone who sacrificed and was not able to spend time with their family because they were over there serving.
Right, but if you put ground troops back in Iraq, you're going to have to put them in Syria too, because that's where their main base is. It appears to be they're coming in from Syria. So a lot of decisions need to be made. I know you're not a politician, but we have a phone call coming in already. Yeah, we're talking about solar power, but I thought since he was here, I'd ask about ISIS and Iraq and everything else. Let's take this call and see who it is. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead. Hey, caller,
Hello?
are you there? You're on the air. Go ahead, my friend.
Yes, I'm kind of curious about solar panels. So I've got a lot of questions about solar panels.
Well, we've got
Number one being, what happens when shade trees cast a shade over the solar panel? Number two, what about the leaves that fall off of trees on the solar panels? And what about how often do you have to clean the solar panels? And does dirt build up? Does it stop the ultraviolet rays or the sun rays from coming in? If you've got to replace a roof, what do you do with solar panels up there? I've got a tremendous amount of questions here. How does it really cost effective over PG&E?
Those are all tremendous. I want you to keep that guy on the line. Don't hang up on this guy. Okay, stay there, caller. You're there? Okay.
It's a very good question. So first of all, shade. Shade is an issue for solar panels. They don't like shade at all. However, newer technologies these days, namely microinverter technology, allow so that if you get shade on one or two panels of your entire system, it doesn't affect the rest of the system. Many years ago, that was an issue. If you got shade on one or two panels, it could affect a large portion of the entire system, a huge inefficiency. But because of the competition and the stirring in the industry, new technologies come out to address that issue. When it comes to leaves or dirt, I know people who have not cleaned their solar panels in many years, and they still produce 75 to 80% of what they would be producing if they were clean. So it's important to keep your panels as clean as you can.
How do you do the other question is, how do you do that? What if somebody has solar panels and they're not in good enough shape or health to climb the roof, or they're scared of heights?
Sure. And that's part of the reason our company as well, and there are many others, have started panel maintenance and cleaning companies. So you can have a professional get up on your roof and clean them properly. But then
how do you find those people?
Well, you can certainly Google them.
Okay.
You can call us and our company. We have our own in-house panel maintenance company. But it really, you have to weigh the cost of what you're putting into it versus the efficiency increase that you're getting out of it. So you really have to weigh that if you're not cleaning them yourself.
Okay. And caller, are you still there?
Yes.
Are you thinking about getting solar panels?
Well, I've seen different ones in the neighborhood put solars up, and I've seen trees by them that blocks the solar panel all day long. And I've kind of wondered, and I've thought, I think I better just wait a few years and see how these people work out before I get mine.
Well, the trees, anyone who's engineering or designing a system for a home, if they're a professional and they're aware and they're knowledgeable in the industry, they should not be designing a system and putting it on a customer's home if there are trees that are blocking the view. I have to have this conversation with clients all the time.
There's somebody on a roof there. One of your guys cleaning those panels?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our professional cleaning service. Trees really should be removed if they're in direct. Now, if you have one tree on the eastern side that may cast a shadow early in the morning just for an hour or two, that's not a real big deal. But if you have trees that are blocking your system and the direct sun onto those panels all the time, then that becomes a very poor investment. But that's a decision and a conversation that should be had prior to installing and making that investment.
And the other question you had, caller, was what about the roof, the stability of the roof, right?
Yeah, if you go to replace a roof and you've got solar panels on, this looks like a rather major expense, wouldn't it be?
That's a very, very good question. That is why when we initially look at a house, we take a very, very close look at the age of the roof. If the roof is less than 10 years old, then you're okay. But if it's 5 years from needing replacement, we'll say, look, if you're going to get solar, it's time to replace the roof now. And there are actually some tax incentives and benefits for doing both at the same time. So yes, it's a very good question, but typically most rooftops don't have to be replaced but once every 30 or 40 years. And panels last 25 to 30 years. So
I don't know if most roofs last 30 or 40 years. I would challenge you on that.
I replace rooftops every month, and I work closely with roofing contractors. 30-year and 50-year comp shingle roofs.
There's 30-year roofs. I don't know if they're going to go 40, but...
Well, there are 30-year and 50-year comp shingle roofs, and that is really the industry standard now. You don't see too many that are below that. And that's where a warranty comes in. The manufacturer and the roofing contractor both provide those warranties.
Depends on the material, I think.
I would agree.
Yeah, it depends on the material.
The costs of these materials has come down substantially.
Caller, you're still there?
Yes, thank
right.
you.
All
You've
right.
answered my questions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, solar makes no noise, no waste, no carbon. Price seems to be going down, but there's still a lot of doubters out there, as you can see, including myself, including a lot of callers. We'll address some of those doubts here in a moment on Connect with Me. We're going to be back with our program with Chris Moran, the owner of Solar Negotiators, 436 MeTV, option 11. We're coming back in a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Oh. Hey, we're back here on the program talking about solar power. And so I mentioned that these things are, noise-free, they're waste-free, I don't know what, I don't know about the cosmetic aspect of this whole thing is. I don't know if you think they look attractive or not, but there's no carbon. It looks like the price is coming down. So just like our first caller today regarding solar, there are those doubters out there, okay? And I have to admit, I'm one of them.
Sure.
So what's the first concern? When you go out to somebody's home, the homeowner comes out and says, well, here's what I'm concerned about. Before you even put the panels up, before you even strike a deal, what's the number one concern?
People are concerned that the technology and the equipment is going to last. I mean, that is a number one concern. And you have to look at the history of solar. Solar really started hitting big with NASA. How do you get power to a satellite that's 150 miles above the Earth? And you have to understand these satellites that are sent up there are using solar panels to power them, and these satellites oftentimes are in service for 20 plus years or longer. So that is, the equipment lasts, and there's an industry-wide warranty on on production of panels, and every manufacturer in the industry has a 25-year production warranty that states that in year 25 the panel will still be producing at 80% of its year one value. That's pretty compelling. That's not one manufacturer that has this. This is every manufacturer has this. That's really a testament to what the equipment is capable of and its longevity.
All right. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, I have two-part question. One is I actually am working in a facility where they have access to the salespeople for the solar, and a friend of mine even was wondering like which company is better, and I'm not into that business where I could tell. So generally, is it fair to kind of like decide right now, you tell us which company is the best, because there's so many, and even my friend was confused of which one is better, and when he found out it was too late because they had already done the financing, there was nothing he could do. And then the second part is, since I'm in sales, can I basically call for employment, and how does that work?
When you're asking about what company's better, that's really a subjective question. But
How do you find the right company?
City.
What's that?
Well, basically, my one of the companies that I'm directly in touch with is the Solar City.
Solar City is certainly the biggest company. Whether they're the best, you have to make that determination on your own. What I encourage.
Well, how do you make that determination? I don't mean to interrupt
it's
you.
Quite
but
all right.
How do you make that determination, especially if you don't have that much knowledge about solar and you're still very much a skeptic?
Sure. Well, that's part of the service that we provide here at Solar Negotiators is we don't have an allegiance to one company or the other. Our service is a consultation, is giving you unbiased, objective, cost-free information in the industry about what the best ways to go solar are, and we give you compare and contrast options versus the different ways you can go solar, whether it's a purchase with cash or financing, or a lease option, or a power purchase agreement. But when you ask what company is the best, you have to weigh a few factors. What I encourage people to do is consider local. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a tax credit for solar hot water heaters. It was 55%. At that time, there were 30 companies in this area doing and providing that service. As soon as that tax credit expired, there were 3. All the large companies from out of town were gone. So people who installed that system with companies that were big-time companies in the area, as soon as the subsidies left, the companies from out of town were gone, and they had no one to service their system and their warranty. So I would encourage using local to your geographic area. In Fresno, I would use local companies that are well established. Then it's a matter of selecting the right equipment, and that's where research comes in handy. But that is your exact question is the reason that I started this company, was to provide homeowners. I'm a homeowner that threw solar on my house 6 years ago, and I said, man, this makes sense. I want to help people do this the smartest way possible. So I would say, give us a call and we'll give you a free consultation.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's talk about this tax credit thing, because Carl, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay. Do you have any other questions before we let you go?
Well, as far as like employment, how does he work? Does he hire salespeople or?
There are many companies, including my own, that are actively seeking out highly motivated sales individuals. So I would invite you to give us a call, possibly later today, and see if we can have a chat over the phone and see if you might be a good fit.
Yeah. Okay. What's your number? Give me your number real quick.
Our phone number is 559-458-9965.
Okay. All right. You got that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So let's go over these tax credit things.
Sure.
This is one thing I'm confused about. Okay. If I want to get solar on my house, explain the tax credit thing to me in detail.
Sure. The tax credit.
So I can understand it.
Sure. So any dollar you spend on solar, you're going to get 30% of it back. And this is what's called a
Stop right there.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say I spend $20,000 to put panels on my house for solar power. You're telling me I'm going to get how much back?
30%.
How does that happen?
That is through your personal federal income tax return.
Okay, am I going to get a check from them? Am I going to get the discount on site with you? How does that work?
So yes, you have to file for it, and you have to have tax liability. Okay, so if you don't
So
work,
do I have to mail a rebate card in or what?
no, you don't. If you have no income at all and you don't pay taxes, then you can't absorb the credit. But if you have a standard job where you work, you have a W-2 withholdings, then that means you pay taxes. And that credit literally means the solar credit will pay your taxes up to that dollar amount for you for that tax year. And you can roll it over up to a couple of years.
Okay, I still got some questions on that tax thing. I don't quite get it, but let me take this call here. Good morning, caller. Go ahead. Caller.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Turn down the TV set, please. Turn down. Turn down the sound on your TV.
Okay, it's down.
Okay, your question?
I wanted to know about does the panels actually have to go on the roof, or can they put like on the yard outside?
Great question.
Yeah.
Yes. Typically in the city limits, there's not much room in the backyard, so the roof is really your only option. But yes, ground mount systems are very typical. Oftentimes they're more prevalent out in the county areas when you have more property, because there are limitations with building code about how far away from the fence they have to be. But you can put them on the ground or on the roof.
Any other questions there?
No, I was interested in just that because I would not like it on my roof. I would like it more or less, and I live out in the country, so there wouldn't be a problem there.
The benefit to on the ground is you get to select the orientation and pitch. Solar panels get better or worse production based on the direction they're facing, and when you're limited to just what your roof gives you, oftentimes a ground mount system actually is more efficient.
If you have the space.
Correct.
You may not have the space, and
Correct.
it sounds like this caller has all kinds of space because he's out in the country.
Right.
All right, I'm going to ask you more about this. Yeah, go ahead. What's that, caller?
And no trees.
And no trees, correct.
Beautiful. That means no leaves, no dirt. Okay. We're back here on Connect with Me with Chris Moran. He is the owner of Solar Negotiators, and your questions are more than welcome here on this program. We're back in just a moment.
Retro TV, your home for classic television. The greatest shows in history are here for you to enjoy. Join Cosby and Culp as secret agent men in I Spy. Ride along the Ponderosa with the Cartwrights in Bonanza. Hit the beat with Joe Friday in Dragnet. And that's not all. Retro TV offers endless fun and excitement for the whole family to enjoy. Retro TV, the best in classic television.
You can find Retro TV on over-the-air channel 13.4.
All right, I'm going to run down for you the top 10 solar states in the entire country. Obviously, California tops the list. Arizona, Colorado, Hawaii, Delaware, Massachusetts, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, and North Carolina. Those are the top 10 states for solar. Now, I'm not sure if that means they're the top 10 states in terms of the sun hitting those states at maximum power, or if that means sales.
Well, could
mean both.
It's a combination of both. High sun intensity combined with higher utility bills, and oftentimes another factor that drives that is how much that state specifically provides its own subsidies. California had its own state rebate for many years, and that was part of the reason the industry here was spurred.
There's no rebate now in California?
Unfortunately, that fund dried up last April, about a year and a half ago.
So I'm not going to get my 30% discount anymore?
No, the state rebate's gone. The federal tax credit is still alive and well.
All right, okay, got another call here. Good morning, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. I was just wondering, with new technology and that sort of thing coming on, are the panels getting smaller? I mean, in the next 4 or 5 years, will panels be smaller than they are now?
It's a very good question. So that really define that in efficiency. How much power is being output from every square inch of sunlight that's absorbed. So yes, efficiency has increased. There are different panel sizes when you actually measure it out. Dimensions, whether it's 3.5 foot by 5 foot or 2 foot by 2 foot. But we're getting more power per square inch of absorbed sunlight. So yes, to answer your question, it's been a steady increase over the last 30, 40 years. But yes, they are getting more and more efficient.
Okay, so caller, you still there?
Well, I was just going to say, then, how do we know that that I don't put a set of panels on my home, and then in the next 3 or 4 years, they'll reduce those to half. You know, and then I got these big panels on my roof when I could have waited a few years and got them smaller, because I know everything, just like cell phones or computers. I mean, when they first came out, they were huge, and now they're just you can get them almost any size. That was my question.
Correct.
And I thank you for your answer.
And this is how I answer that question. I get the question about obsolescence. What happens if the panels I purchase today in 5 years are obsolete compared to a new product? And my answer is this. When you make the investment in solar, it's a 20-plus year investment. You make the purchase so that these panels will produce power for you on an annual basis, and they will continue to do that. So if your one biggest concern is how many panels you have on your roof, then your question becomes much more of an issue. But if your system is still doing what you paid for it to do initially, then it still means it was a good investment. Even if there's something newer, just because there's a 2015 Toyota Camry out doesn't mean that your 2009 Toyota Camry was a bad purchase.
Okay, I mean that's a good comparison, I guess, when you compare it to cars. And I mean, just because a new Camry is going to come out every year, do you have to buy one every year?
Exactly.
No, the answer is no.
Right.
So getting back to this tax credit thing, because I want to fully understand this. So let me ask you. I spent 20 grand on putting panels on my roof. You're not going to give me the rebate. You're not going to give me the 30%.
No, because
cut.
It's a personal income tax credit.
It's a personal income. So on my taxes the following year, when I file my taxes, I'm going to get that check back?
As long as you have, on $20,000, 30% is roughly $6,500. As long as you have
the federal government's going to pay me $6,500?
As long as you have more than $6,500 or more in total taxes for that year, yes. And as long as you've already paid them. So if you're self-employed and you don't pay your taxes until the end of the year, now you owe the government that much because you're filing, then you'll avoid paying it because your credit covers it for you. But if you're a W-2 employee, you've had your taxes withheld all year. That means you've already paid your taxes for the year. Your solar then comes through, and it's almost like you've paid the government twice, and they have to pay you back.
They do have to pay you back. You will be getting a rebate.
It is a check, yes.
It is a cash that you can take to the bank and physically cash it and go on vacation with it if you want.
Correct.
Okay. Or buy more solar panels.
That's right.
So how long is this federal rebate good for?
It expires at the end of 2016.
Oh, and then what?
Well, it's undefined. There's a step down where it goes down to 10% in 2017, and there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether they plan to extend it or not.
Okay, how often should you clean your panels as we take a look at more videotape here? How often do you have to clean them?
The answer to that question is really is determined by whether you're paying someone to do it for you or if you're doing it yourself. If you have a ground mount system and you can very easily get out there with soft water and wipe them down, then you can never keep them too clean. But if you are paying money out of your pocket to keep them clean, then you really only want to do it 2 to 3 times between May and September during the dry season, because the rain will wash them off when we get rain in the wintertime.
Okay. What about... you guys accidentally walk on the panels sometimes? You put your footprints on them?
No.
You don't?
No, we make the professionals installing them make an effort.
Do not walk on them.
Correct.
Yeah, and if they do, they'll clean them.
Yes, and really, you don't want to walk on them because they're not made to withstand the weight of a human being.
Okay. What about the weight of somebody's roof? I mean, we talked about install. If somebody needs a new roof, now you got to tear everything out. But what about the weight? How much does each panel weigh? And is that weight going to sustain on your roof?
Yes. Each panel weighs about 40 to 45 pounds.
Okay.
And so when you spread that over 17 square feet, it comes out to about 3 pounds per square foot. Most rooftops are rated to withstand 20 pounds per square foot or more. So it really is very minimal when you look at the overall structural ability and load calcs for your roof.
What do you charge to have somebody come out and clean your panels?
It depends does depend on the house, but typically you see charges
on average
between $75 and $100.
Okay, another call coming in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I know the panels don't work at nighttime, but on a cloudy day, do you get 100% on those? That's my question.
Solar panels are UV light based, so you do get production on overcast days, but it is typically about 30% of what it would be on a clear day.
So if you live in Seattle, Washington, for example, or Oregon, they get a lot of rain. Maybe not a good idea to get solar panels.
That's exactly right, and that's why when you're designing a solar system, you have to look at the geographic area, and what we use is a multiple of direct sunlight hours. They're called noontime hours. So what you do is you take an average of that geographic area's weather patterns for the last 30 years. In Fresno, we get 5.7 average daytime hours per year. 5.7 average hours per day of direct sunlight, usable sunlight. That's one of the best in the country, whereas San Francisco is 2.9 hours. So you have to use that variable when you're multiplying what the panels can produce, and that is a huge factor as to whether it makes sense in your area.
Yeah, but you know, energy is cheaper in San Francisco because if you go up there and own a house, of course, houses are more expensive. But it seems like PG&E, and by the way, PG&E upped their rates by 15%. I just want to throw that in there. Thanks a lot, PG&E, in the last month or so. But rates, electricity rates in San Francisco are cheaper than they are here.
They are, yes. Well, you know, you don't have much air conditioner usage in that area. And
no, you don't.
That's
mostly
the primary
heater.
reason.
You're mostly using your heater,
That's
even
correct.
in the summer.
That's correct. Yeah, and most people in the Fresno area have high bills because their summertime usage. You have to stay cool. You hear about the health issues when you're not in a cool environment. So you have to run your AC, and when you start to tier up above your baseline, you start paying more and more per kilowatt of power.
Hey, a lot more to talk about. Solar power is the topic of the day here on Connect with Me, so you can call in at 436-MeTV option 11. We're back with Chris Moran and Solar Negotiators in a moment.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
You know, I just want to throw out some stats here that you may or may not want to comment on. From 2008 to 2012, there was a slowdown in solar module manufacturing and production for some companies across the country. They lost a lot of money. In fact, a company called First Step, that was one of the largest in the entire country at one time, from 2008 to 2012, they lost $25 billion. Okay. Why? Why such a drop between that time period, and now we're seeing a rise in that?
I would blame that specifically on the economic meltdown of 2008. Contracting companies, there was just less money going around in the economy. Period. That was the perfect storm for that kind of a reduction. And another issue was you had the Chinese importing just stockpiles of panels, and American
good quality panels, or
there are some
sub-quality.
Many of them were sub-quality, but there are some manufacturers in China that put out very good product.
Same company that made those bolts for the Bay Bridge.
Yeah. But the United States manufacturers could not compete. And so, yeah, that really put a lot of companies out of business.
Yeah, it did. I mean, that was a down time. Can you totally blame it, though, on the economic situation? Because that's an easy cop-out. Could it be something else, like maybe, I don't know, people just kind of gave up on solar during that time period? You know, they had other priorities, and solar still having a lot of doubts, a lot of questions. You know, the doubting Thomases are out there still today.
Yeah, you know, I mean, everything was on the rise until 2008, and everything went down in 2008, and there was a 3 or 4 year period where there was just not much going on in any industry. And so as soon as the economy slowly started to gain ground, I think that's the primary reason, because everything's interdependent.
Yeah. Okay, why is production on the rise, do you think? And why has the cost gone down?
Competition. Competition. The subsidies in California that started back in 2005, 2006 were pouring money and allowing people to go solar. That provided funding for installers and companies to and consumers to purchase. And when there's money, here comes the competitors, and when there's competition, it drives the price down. And then the federal government followed suit, and in 2010 they came out with their 30% tax credit that allowed even more money. And so,
here's the big question I have, because I'm not a big fan of PG&Es. I think that they try to gouge the public. That's my personal opinion. And if PG&E doesn't like it, they can sue me. That's just my feeling about PG&E. So do I trust PG&E? We saw what happened with their smart meters. The question I have is, okay, why can't you put a solar system into your home that's not tied into PG&E? How do I know? I know it has to do with storing power, but how do I know? How can I trust PG&E that they're going to store my power and I'm not going to have to pay them?
Sure.
And how do I know how much they're storing? How do I know I'm not getting ripped off?
Sure. Well, there are multiple ways to ensure that. The smart meter problems that were happening several years ago, most of those, you don't hear too many problems anymore.
Right.
They fixed most of them. And you're right, the problem is storage. Where do you store the power you produce if you're not using it? Because power has to go somewhere and be used right now.
Why can't the homeowner store it?
Well, that's where battery technology comes in. And battery storage is extremely expensive. It is extremely expensive.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you very, very much. I was wondering, does the government now limit the size of the solar unit you can place on your house? For example, if I want to go to a zero paid to PG&E or Edison, will they allow me to do that? Or do they restrict the amount of kilowatts I can place on solar panels? Thank you. I'll take your information off here. Thanks.
Very, very good question. No, luckily they do not restrict how much power or system size that you can put on your roof. However, there are systems in place to where after you're beyond your own needs, so if you have a need of X amount of power and you produce X, you get full value for that power. If you start producing more than that, they don't really pay you very much for it. So there's not really an incentive to overbuild, but there's no utility company restriction or governmental restriction, prohibiting or limiting how much solar power you can put on your property.
Really?
It's just whether it's a good investment for you.
Okay, going back to this storing of power, so how would one store power at their house if they just wanted to cut the ties with PG&E altogether?
You really have to get a battery bank. You have to get.
What does that cost?
It can cost $5,000 to $15,000 or more, depending on the size of your house.
And where do you store this bank?
Well, you have to locate a place on your property that is dry and in the dark and safe and children can't get in there.
You mean like a storage shed or something?
Yeah, you have to select a location just like you would for your water heater.
So it can't get wet?
No.
It's got to be a dry, cool place. In the summertime, it gets hot, as we know, so you can't store it in a shed with a lot of heat.
Correct.
So it's got to be air conditioned.
Yeah, and this is why these systems are rare. You only see these systems way out in really rural areas where the cost of getting the utilities grid to the property, maybe more than $30,000 or $40,000 or more. That's when you start to consider that as an option. And the technology has been cost prohibitive.
What would it cost a month to store the power, in your opinion?
Well, on a monthly basis, once you've made the investment in the equipment,
it's like a flat fee. So you for the investment to install it, you just start storing, and it's not going to cost you anything per month.
Once you own the equipment, it's yours.
Yeah, it's yours. It's yours. You just own it outright. Okay. So if you went with PG&E plus a solar, how would you monitor PG&E to make sure that they're storing the right amount of power for you in your home?
Sure. Well, you can stand in front of your meter and you can watch it spin backwards, and it says by how much.
How do you know that meter is accurate?
Well, you can, if you turn off everything in your house is producing no power at all, or using no power at all. Most solar systems now have monitoring capability. So they track, separate from PG&E, an independent monitoring service that says, this is how much power you're producing right now.
Does that cost extra, by the way, to do that?
Most of the time, no. No, it's really not.
So you would offer a separate system that would monitor that?
It really comes with the inverters oftentimes that go with the solar panels.
Okay.
They have built-in monitoring capability now, as long as you have an internet connection. So
Yeah.
it acts as a fail-safe. So if you turn off everything in your house and you know your system's producing 5 kilowatts and everything in your house is off, your meter should be spinning backwards by 5 kilowatts.
Right.
It's,
and I think you understand the distrust with PG&E,
Sure.
everything that's happened with the smart meters, what happened in San Bruno. You know, they were just fined. I forget what the dollar amount was. It high dollar amount.
more than $1 billion.
It was more than $1 billion they were just fined. You saw that article in the paper. So there is a lot of public distrust with PG&E, and you can understand that.
I think that if this were a real issue, you would see a lot of publicity, bad publicity about PG&E not tracking properly the net metering with solar clients. You'd have a lot of upset clients who would be saying something.
Yeah. Okay. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah. How far are we from integrated solar panel roof surface technology? In other words, don't put shingles on your roof anymore. Just put solar panels on top of the joists on the roof. That's one question I'd like addressed. And my other question is, remember a few years ago when I guess it was a comp roof, blew off of the air terminal building at Fresno Air Terminal because we had like gale force winds, or it was like a kind of a tornado, and made those famous images. Somebody won an award for it over Channel 30. Do you foresee something like that ever happening, a catastrophe where those panels could be lifted off, tossed in the neighborhood or out in the alley, whatever, or become airborne?
Sure.
Two questions for your guest.
Yes, to address your
Great
first
question.
Yes, very good questions.
Yeah.
Your first question is in regards to integrated solar roofing, and it actually already exists and has for several years. The problem is it's really about surface area. If you think of a module, a solar panel, you know, it might be 17 square feet. That is one of the most efficient layouts of the silica that absorbs the panel, the energy and then transforms it. Those solar shingles that you see they're a maintenance nightmare right now. They're not as simple. They're not as cost effective as the modules. I do believe that we will continue to see improvements in that technology.
So just to clarify, they're making the roof shingles out of solar, so you can get roof shingles that are solar, but they're a maintenance nightmare.
Yes, if you have to get into them, because you don't just have a solar panel that's mounted on a racking system now that's easy to access.
It's part of the roof.
It's really part of the roof. And so there are people out there, aesthetics is very important to them, especially in in very, very high-end homes. But they are making steady incremental improvements in that.
Hey, is that tree going to be a problem there on that roof, that install?
Not not right now. From what I can see from that angle, not really. But it may in a few years as it gets taller.
Yeah.
So the second question is the risk of having strong winds lifting panels up. A solar panel is much like a sail on a boat. I mean, it's going to catch air, and luckily in Fresno we don't have winds that are as strong as down in say the Santa Anas down south. And you've seen the building departments have been enforcing stronger engineering requirements to make sure that the engineers who are putting these permits together are using equipment and mounting methods and doing calculations for the risk to be able to handle those kinds of loads.
Yeah. Okay. We got to go to break now or what? No? We do? No? Break. Okay. Chris Moran is here. He's from Solar Negotiators, trying to answer your questions, any and all about solar. I know there are still some doubting Thomases out there, and so we're here to answer the questions. That's why we're having this show today, up until 11 o'clock in the morning. Back in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
back here on the show talking about solar power. And, well, we'll put up the disclaimer just very briefly here and just mention that Chris came in of his own free will and free time. Nobody forced him to come in. We're not paying him. He's not paying us. We are just here to try to aid and abet his business, and hopefully he will, you know, be as successful as we have been here at Ventura TV since 1951. So thanks for coming in. By the way, oh, we got a call here. Okay, so caller, go ahead. You're on the air. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, well, I just had to stand up for PG&E because for about 3 years now, my income's about $1,300 a month, and I'm on a special discount that they give me. It's not nothing to do with welfare or anything, and I went and pulled my bill, and this last month, discount was $47.06. It's about $50 a month. So there is some good out there, and I just want poor people to know that maybe they might qualify for that. As far as solar, I've always looked at the sun and thought, why are we paying for any kind of energy when that ball of heat is up there, that we should have energy for everything we would ever want the rest of our life, for cars, for if we live to be 1,000,000 years old.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, hey, thank you. A very pleasant lady and a very nice call there, and some good news about PG&E giving her that discount. That's good.
Well, and
I'm glad to hear that.
You know, PG&E is absolutely necessary. We have to have a single entity that really maintains our grid. We all live in this luxurious.
That's not the dispute. The dispute is rising costs. Every time you turn around, they're raising the bill. The smart meters, we all know the problems that existed with them, and then obviously what happened in San Bruno, and their connection and relationship with the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission.
I grew up in the phone industry, so it's a regulated. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So you understand why there's so many doubting Thomases about PG&E as well.
Sure. And it's a utility. You know, when you have to get power to every homeowner, when you have to get phone service to every homeowner, it's a regulated service. They're regulated, and they have a rate of return that they're allowed to make. So there's a certain amount of money and cost that goes into getting every homeowner standard utility service. So yes, I completely understand the distrust, but they are absolutely necessary.
Hey, I don't know if you know much about this. I'll just throw it out there after this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, about the solar panels. How vulnerable will that make my home to break-ins?
That's a great question.
Ooh.
You know, when I first got into business about 5 years ago, that was one of my concerns. I said, you know, my clients, I'm concerned that there's going to be vandalism or theft. And I can honestly say
I mean stealing the panels.
Stealing the panels, correct.
In the dead of night.
I don't know that having panels on your house makes your house any more vulnerable to a break-in for items inside the house, but my concern was theft of the panels themselves. And I surprisingly have never had a single client have any kind of vandalism or theft of their panels. And really, I don't know that you know, these criminals who would break in would even know what to do with them.
The first criminal group I think of are the Pink Panthers. You know, the guys that steal diamonds. They can, in those jumpsuits, they can in the dead of night at 3 in the morning, they're going to take one of your panels.
Right.
Hey, I've got this question for you here. Now, I did a little research, and we have a phone call. Okay, every time I ask a question, see?
Apparently.
Yeah, you're a popular guy, by the way. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, about the HERO program.
Yes. The HERO.
Would that cover the Valley or whatever is that on that? Could you explain that?
I certainly can. Back in 2008, Governor Schwarzenegger signed in legislation called PACE, P-A-C-E, Publicly Assessed Clean Energy. And what it was it allowed counties and cities to finance energy-efficient upgrades on homes through your property tax bill, securing your home, in essence, through a line item on your property tax bill. Up until about 3 years ago, there was no money to fund this program. And back down in San Bernardino County and down south, some private investors who wanted to get into the energy industry said, look, we'll funnel money into this, revive it, breathe some life back into it, and they renamed it HERO. And the way it works, yes, is you can as long as you have 10% equity in your home, the Hero program will, and you don't, there's a few other minor requirements, but they will fund up to 10% equity in the amount of that for solar, hot water heaters that are energy efficient, dual pane windows, insulation, energy efficient air conditioning, things like that, LED lighting, these kinds of things, and it's been embraced by it's spreading like wildfire all over the state. City of Fresno, City of Clovis are now eligible, and the County of Fresno, I believe the Board of Supervisors just a week or two ago unanimously voted to move forward with this, and I believe it should be going into effect November 2nd in Fresno County.
All right, Chris Moran is here from Solar Negotiators, back with our program and your phone calls in our final segment coming up in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
And we're back here on the program and talking about solar power. And we just had a question in the break. And that's a good question that you brought up, the equity in your home. How much do you have to have?
For the Hero program, you have to have 10% or more. And here's a nice part about the Hero program. Your credit score does not matter. You can have a 450 credit score and it has no bearing. Your interest rate is not determined by your credit score. It is determined by the term, the year, the amount of years the loan you select.
Yeah, I have heard that if your PG&E bill is more than $250, that's really the common sense time to think about getting solar.
Correct.
Am I right about that?
And it can make a lot of sense even below that, but yes, when your bill is that high, the reason for the bill is that high is because the power you're purchasing from the utility company, much of it is in the higher tiers. You're paying more per kilowatt simply
see, that's
because
the other
you use
complaint
more.
about PG&E is they have these different tiers.
Correct.
Okay, that's the other crisis, I guess, that I think can create havoc in your economic situation in your household.
Sure.
If you're on that different tier, now it goes way up.
Right. So when you're looking at solar, it's an investment. What am I paying now versus what am I going to pay to save, and how much am I going to save? That's really what the steps you have to go through.
But even if you're in the lower tier, why should convince me why I should get solar if I'm in the lower tier?
Okay.
Well, what advantages do I have in getting solar? It's very expensive, and this 0% down, I totally don't understand that. How can I get this for zero money down?
Okay. So
am I going to have to pay monthly on this, or what?
Well, yes, it becomes a loan, but you have to understand that you have a loan out to the power company for the rest of your life. You have a monthly payment. You have to make it. They raise the rates every year.
Is it a flat fee?
It depends. There's different structures. So let me give you an example, if I may. If you have a $300 average bill, maybe you have a $500 bill in the summer and a $180 bill in the winter and spring, $300 average. Okay, that's $3,600 a year that you have to pay to keep the lights on. And these are after-tax dollars. So we determine how much solar we need to eliminate that bill down to roughly zero. So we eliminate $300 a month in outgoing cash that is going to go up. PG&E is not going to call you someday and say, hey, we're going to be nice today and just lower your rates for you. That's not something anyone expects to happen. People expect them to go up or at least stay the same. So when you have this solar system that's now eliminated that cash outgoing, the loan may be a 12-year loan, and your payment on that loan may be $190. So you're now saving $110 per month. And you're saving even more than that if power goes up each year because you're avoiding.
Yeah, but that's not gonna pay off if you're only paying, say, $120 a month on PG&E.
Now you're starting to really make the point that you were making, was if you're lower than $250, that means you're not paying very much for your power now anyways.
Yeah.
However, if you are going to stay in the home for a long period of time, maybe you're retired and this is your forever home, and you're spending $120 to $150 a month in cash. Well, that money's gone. Once you spend it to the utility company, there's no getting it back. Whereas if you were to go solar, and maybe you swap your $150 PG&E payment with $140 solar payment. Well, I'm not saving much, Chris. Why would I do that? Well, the reason,
that's the question.
The reason is at least that $140 is paying off an asset that is worth something on your home.
And that's never going to go up?
As far as these
so
payments,
the 140 a month is going to stay there for the duration of time. It's never going to go up like PG&E goes up.
Right, and most of these loans have an end date, 10 years, 12 years, maybe 15, but PG&E, 20 years from now in the month of July, your summer bill is going to come and you're going to have to write the check. So the nice thing is there's a light at the end of the tunnel with this, where, you know, it may be the same amount of cash going out for your solar payment when you have such a low bill, but at least now you have a $10,000, $15,000 asset on your roof and your house is worth a little bit more, and someday you won't have a bill at all.
If you're 70 years old and you're looking at your lifespan maybe as being maybe another 20 years, or if you're 80 years old and maybe your lifespan is only another 10 years, why should you get solar?
Well, that's a very good question. And these are, you're starting to discuss some of the circumstances where it may not make sense. And solar doesn't make sense for every person every day. It has to make sense for your situation. That's why everyone's not going solar. So you can make arguments all day about why you shouldn't, but oftentimes they're not the, you know, that's not the only way to look at it.
Okay. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air. Hey, caller. Hello.
Is this solar thing, is this going to create more of the global warming? And if so, could you tell me off the air?
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I am my background in geology and climatology.
Global warming.
I'm not going to go there. Unfortunately, I just don't have enough scientific knowledge to be able to speak to that.
Okay, maybe you don't have enough knowledge about this either, but I looked this up, and as far as I could tell, I've only got 3 minutes here. Australia, the country of Australia, a lot of sun down there, a lot of desert, by the way. Okay, solar technology was through the roof there in the 1980s. Now coal is taking over.
Coal?
Why?
Well, coal.
What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to solar?
Well,
I mean, can you think of any other place other than Australia, maybe, that has more sun?
Well, you know, it's all about what's the cheapest way to produce the power. And if you're not making the arguments of environmental concerns, because that's usually where it comes from is, oh, don't burn coal, you've got environmental concerns. If that's not their concern down there, it's still cheaper to produce power with coal. It is, per kilowatt. The utility company can produce a kilowatt for 2 or 3 cents with coal, whereas it costs maybe 6 or 7 cents with solar.
Yeah, now I understand down there that they've got about, well, they have several proposed solar farms down in Australia, which are kind of on hold right now. They've had to cancel some of them. I mean, this is enough power to produce energy for like 30,000 homes, and they've canceled some of their programs. And that's it. So, okay, I'm not sure what that tells you. I can tell you what it tells. What does that tell you?
It tells me that their political environment is not as concerned as it is in the United States with the byproducts of coal. They've accepted that coal is a more efficient way to produce power, and they're okay with that.
Yeah, I was thinking there are some political battles going on down there in Australia over, you know, coal versus solar power. So, okay, we got about a minute left.
Sure.
I'm still a little bit of a doubter on this. You got about 30 seconds to convince me otherwise and come to your side of the fence.
Sure. Well, you've got a utility bill that you're going to have to pay forever. You're in debt to the power company for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're never not going to have that payment. Solar is an option where if you don't have to make, the way it is now is you don't have to come up with money yourself from your own savings. There are banks that are willing to finance it at a lower rate, put it on your home. The system will last 25, 30 plus years. And after you pay off the loan, you in essence don't have a payment to anyone, and you get to save whatever your average power bill is now. You're avoiding that from then on.
Or we could go the Ty Cobb route. You know what Ty Cobb did, don't you?
I know, he was a baseball player.
Baseball player. You know what he lived in Menlo Park. He got so angry with their energy company. I think it might have been PG&E. I don't know. He canceled them and was either in candlelight or in total darkness.
That's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it. Phone number and web address.
559-458-9965 or at solarnegotiators.com.
Very informative. I love you as a guest.
Thank you, John.
Come back again.
Well, I will.
Love to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Great show. Hey, Chris Moran, the owner of Solar Negotiators. Go see him, talk to him. He's the expert. Glad to have him on the show. Tomorrow, another program coming your way on Connect with Me. Have a great day.